Hello and welcome back to the third video in my Java programming tutorial series. In this video, we're going to be covering looping. If you are new to programming, you might be asking yourself, what is looping? In the simplest terms, looping is the process of doing things multiple times, or doing things repeatedly. For example, I might create a loop that adds 1 x times. So it would just add 1 as many times as I say it to, and that would be a loop. You might even relate this to, say, maybe a morning routine. For example, when you wake up in the morning, you go to the bathroom, brush your teeth, eat breakfast, and take a shower, normal things, and that would be a loop. It's something that happens repeatedly. In many programming languages, there are multiple ways of representing this. In Java, there are 2 main ways, that being the while loop and the for loop. Our while loop is just a conditional, which means that it operates on a boolean, something that's true or false, and a for loop operates normally on numbers. So a for loop will loop 10 times, for example, whereas a while loop might execute while a number is less than 5, or for example, or or while playing game. Whatever conditional you have, while loops are just for things where you don't know exactly how many numbers of repeats there will be, and for loops are for when you know that is the exact number of repeats. In Java, we can write while loops like this. While loops are the simpler of the two. Basically, you put while, and then you put your condition. This is an example of a while true loop, which is a common infinite loop. If you ran this on your computer with, say, a print statement in the middle, it would run until your computer runs out of RAM or crashes or whatever. And it likely would, because it's always true. You can, of course, write whatever condition you want, where I have true. It's pretty simple. And then the for loop, which is the probably most common loop. It looks a little different from the pseudocode I provided before. Basically, you write for, and then inside the parentheses, you have 3 sections in for loops. You have an integer declaration. You can declare any variable right there, but most of the time it's int I. And I'll explain why it's I probably in the next video when we cover arrays. But you declare a variable I, and then you have your condition in the middle, which usually dictates the range of your array, or not array, for loop. So you have I is less than 10, and then I++ just increments I by 1, so it will add 1 to I. So this will execute 10 times, because I will be less than 10 times. And that's how for loops work. You'll get more used to it, I think, after I explain it in more code. So let's look at that in the IDE. Okay, now in the IDE, I have just gone and set up a quick little demo of while loops. This is the same one that I had before. It's just a while true, so this will run while this statement is true, which, since I've just written true, it'll always be true. And it's going to print hello world infinitely. I'm going to run this briefly, but not for too long, or it will crash my computer. Run. Yeah. Now I'm going to stop that. As you can see, if I scroll up, yeah, it printed thousands of times in that brief moment. And this isn't even all of them. IntelliJ cut it off. Okay, and now I'm gonna show the same for loop demo as before. I'm just gonna comment this one out real quick. So, for loop demo. There we go. So now I have the for loop demo from before. For I is less than 10, add 1 to I, print hello world. So contrary to the while loop that runs forever, we're just going to loop 10 times in this example. So if I click run, there we go. So now you can see hello world, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. One thing we can do with the for loop that you can do with a while loop, but it's easier to do with the for loop, is you can add I, just like this. So like I showed in the first video about how you can print variables, so we're going to do that. We're going to print I, and because I is ever increasing, it should label each of these with the number that it's increasing. If we run that, there you go, you see hello world 0, hello world 1. And you'll notice it starts from 0. This is common practice to start from 0, and that's another thing that I will explain in the next one when we cover arrays. But if you really wanted to get the 1 to 10, you could do 1 is less than or equal to 10. Because now it starts at 1 and it'll go 1 higher, so there. Hello world 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I think get the gist. And now I'm going to show a more complex, I guess, representation of loops. This is going to be with the common programming problem FizzBuzz. It's an interview problem, I think famous because Google used it. But basically, okay, that is not what I want to do. Given n, which is just an integer, check if a number is 1 divisible by 15, and if it is, print FizzBuzz. If it's divisible by 5, print buzz, and if it's divisible by 3, print fizz, and if it's none of the above, just print the number. And it's kind of made to test your quick wits, I suppose. It's quite easy to solve, though. So we're going to go from 1 to 100. So the first thing we need to do, so remembering back to conditionals, which we did last time, we check if something is divisible by both 3 and 5 using the modulus operator, which you may also remember from the last time when I covered operators. Basically, the modulus operator gets the remainder of this division. So if we divided I with 3, the remainder is what the mod operator returns. So because if it gets a 0 remainder, it means these divided cleanly, and it means I is a multiple of 3. And the same thing with 5. So if that is the case, then we would like to print FizzBuzz. Now if that is not the case, we do else if it's divisible by 3, we'll print fizz. And if that's not the case, if it's divisible by 5, we'll print buzz. And lastly, if none of these are successful, we'll just print I. And this is a slightly more complex representation of loops just because it uses both the conditionals and the looping. So we can come into here, click run. There we go. I can make this bigger. So scroll all the way back. 1, 2, because 3 is divisible by 3, fizz, 4, because 5 is divisible by 5, buzz. Since 6 is divisible by 3, fizz, 7, 8, 9 is divisible by 3, buzz, because 10 is divisible all the way like 15, because 15 is divisible by 15, so. And this goes all the way down to 100. And I think that's probably where I'm going to leave it for today. This is kind of a basic introduction into loops, while loops and for loops. There are technically a couple other ways you can loop, but those are the main ones. Those are the ones you're going to see most often. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.